Ṣẹ̀kẹ̀rẹ̀ lọ bá jó, ṣẹ̀kẹ̀rẹ̀ lọ bá jó, olúwa mi ò dìde ojó ṣẹ̀kẹ̀rẹ̀.
Hello and welcome to the Ashen Forge. I am Phantom X, joined as always by Diggs and the legendary Neurotox, and I get to edit that entire first 20 seconds or so out. So, how's everybody doing?
Doing good.
Awesome. We the end of Alpha 1 basically today, right?
Yeah, it's basically just happening as we speak.
Yeah. I mean, you guys literally just finished. What were you doing?
Siege.
It was a final siege, and they were having two siege parties today, one at 1 p.m. and one at 5 p.m. People got some flying mounts. Then they were told to stop cheating by escaping with their flying mounts and not dying.
What they were doing? I thought they were killing people, but okay.
I think they were doing that too. So that's a bit of shenanigans right there. But hey, people got to check it out. It was fun.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of security, a lot of things to figure out.
Oh yeah, no, they've got their work to do between A1 and A2.
So before you guys get really deep into it, so I think maybe it makes sense to start off, since it is the end from when it first started. I'm curious, have you seen improvements? I know there's not been a lot as far as content and things like that, but more so any, bugs, the networking, that sort of stuff.
Yeah. So networking got a lot better, a lot more serviceable. PvP and large PvE raids. Stopped having the majority of the rubber banding. You still get little bits here and there, but it's a lot less frequent. The geometry having issues and falling through, they pretty well fixed. I didn't see any large seams or anything towards the very end, except when I was going on the 1300 gold mount that goes at plus 100% speed and already has a high base speed. It was the Timber Snoot version of that thing, 13K to get it, but it goes so fast between that and the speed buff. I'm not sure if it stacks or not from the Illwind area. I was going so fast that the mountains in the distance were just turning into paper. It's like, can't load this one yet. Here's a plane of mountain instead. But that's also because my computer's maybe kind of a potato at this point. I mean, it was only built in 2013. It's not that old.
Dig?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it didn't seem like they were changing a lot. I mean, I think it was good. Yesterday, they fixed the harvesting bug, so we were able to harvest again. I think Thursday and Friday we were not able to. You could harvest, but it wouldn't go into your bag. I think they fixed that yesterday. But there are still some broken quests I would have liked to have completed, like the draft. And
that one got even more broken. Now I can't even get the manuscript off his desk. So over the entire course from where it was working at the very beginning of A1, by the end, it wasn't just the desk being gone. It was the fact that you can't even grab the glowing manuscript off the desk, which, by the way, you also couldn't grab the crate for the, what's it called, quest, Germain in Illwind, where you use the flame sieve to kill him. You couldn't get the crate. You couldn't get the crate from the guy who you get the item from. So it seems like at the very end, the quests were in almost a more broken state than weeks before.
Yeah.
And before, the problem was you could get the item, but you couldn't kill Jermaine. He'd get to 0 and nothing would happen. Now you're not even allowed to get to that step. I want to say when they first pushed the latest update, somebody tried the new user experience at that point, or like a new character rather, and they couldn't even do the main storyline because there was something bugged in that they couldn't continue on. So they got a lot of work to do. I know these aren't like the quests that are going to go live with the game. All these are test level quests. But that said, you gotta get them to work, especially if with making experience a little more stringent to earn from killing things and from quests as it previously had been, if I'm not mistaken. It's very imperative just to allow all the quests to be functional. The worst was if you made Resna the capital, Winstead could never, or the highest tier node, Winstead could never become the highest tier node. And what happened is Winstead has some tents with some people that I should probably
give you a lot of quests.
Yeah, they give you a lot of quests. They put you all over. You get a lot of amazing rewards. Nala did not have any of that. You didn't get any of those quests whatsoever. So the area that was a higher experience place to set up at the very beginning, unfortunately, was a shot in the foot because you just couldn't get all the same benefits from it.
Yeah, I think that was the downside to no wipes. Maybe they did a few the first week?
Very beginning, I can't remember what one of them was, but I know one of them is when somebody got in and started giving all the players 2 billion gold.
Yeah. But yeah, having what, like 3 weeks or whatever of maybe 4 weeks of no wipes. I don't know. I would have preferred to have wipes, and even if I'm repeatedly doing questing again, like feeling stuck with the questing, okay. I don't know. I did have to. I think it feels like I did that twice, but maybe it was only once. Just grinding until maybe because I did it once on Lineth and once on Resna, but trying to grind to even 12 just to be able to siege. You can only go so far, and then you're grinding the last several levels, which I'd rather do that through quests. But
yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, I mean, that what else happened? I think what I would like to get some feedback from Phantom on, and he has some experience with this. Although I don't think he tried to actually craft any armor, but the crafting seems super tedious. Like it's like really tedious to get to craft. Did you craft armor, Neuro? Did you?
Yeah. Okay. So there were 2 forms of it. One was the original form where there was the crafting quest and you had to go through all these involved steps to do the thing. But then when you get to the village level, it stops being that hard because you can just go to the local refiner in town, and they would actually give you better rates than the just default crafting it by yourself, because you can't increase in skill. So you'd get like 5 for 1 would instead increase to 6 for 1, for example.
Mm-hmm.
So or 5 for 5 it becomes 6 for 5. So like your larger scale crafting, you get little kind of bonuses on it. So I mean, that was a nice thing to have them add. It took down a lot of the tedious aspect of the crafting process. Then the tedious part was still just harvesting, and then towards the end, something got real screwy, and they decided, well, you expend your blueprints when you craft stuff. So that means potions and everything else become that much more expensive. And if you have some sort of rare blueprint, you only get to make one from it instead of people were like making items over and over and over.
They'll have to change that,
So,
right? Otherwise, they need to change the name.
yeah, it's definitely something I don't think they plan to do when it goes live.
'Cause it's no
And I
longer a
don't know.
blueprint.
Yeah,
Recipe?
it's no, at that point it's a kit. It's that you have the expendable components and stuff to complete one unit, sufficing that you've got the skill to do it. And I don't really think that's what anybody's looking for. Pretty much the outcry from everyone is like great way to completely obliterate the economy of people who have rare schematics and blueprints, and their ability to use that for a market advantage and actually make and sell the units that are otherwise unavailable. So if they're going to continue and do it that way where the blueprints get expended, definitely warn players sooner than later, because that's that kind of seems like a problem they're going to need to head off.
Yeah, because the whole point of being a crafter and
Yeah.
putting your resources and time into that is to be known as the person on your server that can do something nobody else can.
Yeah. Now, that said, I would probably be okay with, if they do want to have something that's a one-time use, call it a kit. Don't call it a blueprint. That it comes with, some of the parts. You still need to provide some of the parts for it. And it's, just built into it. You can't salvage it or just take the, core components and little spells and recipes and rituals and stuff that are basically in a manual for you, along with some proprietary parts. You would just have that as its own whole unit, and you get the rest of the resources and you apply it and make the thing, and there you go. This is still just like super primitive crafting to demonstrate, hey, there's going to be crafting. This is in no way what I expect actual gameplay crafting to be like. I don't know if A2 is where they're going to advance that, or where they're planning to bring in the rest of the crafting system, all of the harvesting systems and all of that. But
when Steven had joined us, was it the last time? I don't remember which time. I think Alpha 2 was the target.
Alpha 2 is the target. Okay. So if that's the case, I hope they stick to it. I think you're right about that. I kind of forgot that. Yeah, no. If Alpha 2 is going to be the target, then that'll be something that I'm sure everybody is looking forward to. And I think we'll see a lot more emphasis on it. Likewise, I think it actually is going to start making the case, if they make PvP an open sort of thing, try out the corruption system, that they're going to have harvesters going around in groups rather than solo, so they can ward off solo gankers.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of feel that I wish it was closer. Maybe it will be closer to something like Valheim. I liked the crafting in Valheim. I kind of like the. I don't necessarily like the stuff that I am crafting in New World, but I like the mechanics of it. And Ashes right now seems like it's going to be too tedious. And there's something, and again, it's Alpha 1, but there was something also about just the basic crafting, getting the quest from the blacksmith. I go to the forge, I guess, and then I find out that I need to smelt some stuff, so I have to go to the and then I forget all the stuff that I need there, and then I'm trying to make some stuff at the fire, and then I forget what I need at the forge. It's just like somehow there's not enough.
Always have a pen and paper and pencil next to you.
Well, the other thing is, the quest log itself would actually tell you what you need to craft, or what you need to do to craft it, how many of each component. So I don't know if that was an original feature. Originally, you couldn't even see what the components of the recipes were, if I'm not mistaken. So eventually they fixed that. But the last time I did the quest, it had all the things that I needed to craft it, including how much wood I would need to make the charcoal for it.
Yeah, I think I had enough of the basic ingredients, but then all the stuff that I need, once I crafted it, it's like, well, you need so much charcoal to get blah 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 blah, and then I'd be like, oh right, and I'd go to one place to make the charcoal, and then forget what the next thing is, and I'd have to go back to the other crafting station to remember how
Yeah,
much of each thing I needed. It was,
that's pretty
but
tedious.
yeah,
It's
but
much better to just have the recipe and be able to look at it.
yeah, but it's Alpha 1, so that, I mean, that's hopefully fine. I'm just um I did recently have a couple of things to compare it to after playing New World, and Valheim was not that long ago, maybe 3 months ago or something like that. So,
So
um,
of the things that are in, I mean, we can talk about crafting. Obviously, I'd like to do that, fishing. But of the things that are actually the focal point of Alpha 1, so it sounds like networking has improved.
Networking has improved.
So have sieges have felt generally better as far as lag and
Still chunky, but better. I'm still not sure how much of that's their network stuff and how my computer is able to handle it.
then the combat. Does the combat feel like it's still pretty well on a good trajectory?
It still feels kind of primitive, but at least the ability to swing while you're walking and not just automatically move forward with each attack. That's definitely an improvement.
Biggs, you smiled. What was that?
I smiled because it was a big uh, um, discussion on the forums, um, and I, people are thinking about combat in ways that I normally don't. So I normally do not think about split body versus root motion and floaty and all this stuff. I'm usually thinking about um, dodge, roll, blink, block, active block. Um, for Neverwinter Online and for Wildstar, for instance, what I liked about the action combat of those games were the ground telegraphs, because to me that felt like peripheral vision. I'd see something, and I'd be fighting a bunch of mobs, and then I'd somewhere in my peripheral vision see a ground telegraph and know that I need to scoot out of the way, and that gives me a quick adrenaline rush, and I like that about that type of mechanic. Um, in Valheim and New World, they don't have ground telegraphs, but the telegraphs on the mobs are good enough that I know when I want to block, and I use a lot of active block in those two games. Um, Now, the other thing is the AI moves around a lot, so it's the AI that's pushing me to move. Whereas in Ashes, the mobs are pretty static, so you can just kind of like Pantheon, just stand and swing
Hmm.
a little bit more slowly. So for me, I'd be more interested in seeing the AI change and become more adaptive, and I wouldn't care so much about split body necessarily. The thing I don't like in Ashes is that jump forward after you kill the mob. Um, And if you get rid of that, then I'm probably not gonna care. I don't notice root motion in other games or split body in other games. But lots of people did like the change that they made this week. I think this week is when we got the split body movement,
Yeah.
or was it this week or I think it was this week.
Well, I mean, today's Sunday. It was last week.
Well, I mean Thursday. Thursday's.
Yeah.
Um,
Maybe it was slightly before that. I can't actually recall. It's
I
been in
think
for
we.
long enough for people to, give it some love. Weren't they talking about it in the last live stream? So I think
I
it was
think
actually 2 weeks ago.
I think they showed it to us, but they didn't put it in that weekend. And we finally got to it Thursday. That's the way I recall. Um, but lots of people said that they prefer It's much better. It's much better with the split body. And that's when they put in the AB toggle. Did you toggle back and forth between the two
Uh,
systems?
yeah, I tried it a little bit, but a lot of the stuff that I was fighting with didn't even do that. Like I just kind of taken up the wand for the most part with the characters I was playing.
Yeah, I'm fighting
So
with the wand too.
yeah, so kind of different mechanic there.
Hmm.
But
No,
yeah, I definitely didn't like automatically moving forward because if I've got two targets in front of me, for example, and one of them steps back a little, I don't want to now have my side exposed to one and be getting hit by the other instead of still just kind of swinging and hitting both of them with my arc.
Hmm.
one thing. So for the past week or so, I've been. Well, the goal was to go out and look for the best fishing, which we can get into that later. But so I've played, gosh, ESO Aura Kingdom, Lord of the Rings
BDO.
Online, BDO, Arcage. I feel like I'm forgetting. Anyways, one thing that I'm surprised, we since we first started the show, I think I've, they went out and mentioned, we're gonna have a hybrid tap target or action combat. I think I've always sort of mentioned that I'm very much a tap target kind of person. Grew up with EverQuest. That's just sort of what I was used to. As I've been playing more and more different games, actually, something I'm finding that I didn't realize about myself was I actually enjoy the action combat much more than tab targeting. So, New World combat felt really good. BDO combat feels really good. As I was playing Final Fantasy 14, no, that was the other one. That's just the sort of standard tab targets. Things on the ground telling you to move, and it just got just very, very boring and very tedious for quite a while. So I actually, assuming we get Ashes of Creation and assuming I play it, I'm surprisingly going to probably find myself more in the action combat. The only exception to that will be healing. I just don't see how they can make healing individual targets, anyways, feel fun in an action combat type of picture. At least from the siege that I experienced, that's what drove me the craziest was, if you're going to do just all AOE heals, that's fine. But yeah, so I'm actually.
If you're going to do that, we need more.
Well, yeah, I mean,
That's
obviously I'd hate to see them do that because then if okay, well, we'll just do AOE heals, then you're just gonna have AOE damage, and then it's just sort of, I don't know, it will turn into really, I don't know how much tactics would be involved at that point other than just spam heal, get the best gear, spam heal, spam heal.
well, there's augments coming along with that too. So,
Yeah.
what was you triggered something that I wanted to say, and I don't remember what it is. So was it with healing? We would need more AOEs. Oh, action. That's what it is. Yeah, so that's why when I look at, is it Pantheon? Is it Pantheon that we've been looking at that I keep saying seems too tedious
Yeah,
to play?
Pantheon is EverQuest Reborn,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
And when I
Definitely.
look at that combat, it just seems so slow compared. So yeah, after playing Neverwinter online, um, and I liked WildStar. WildStar got a little bit too puzzly after a while. You get so far along that they like drop 4 or 5 ground telegraphs in different geometric shapes on the ground, and you got to try and find the one safe spot to stand in between all that stuff. And it got a little bit too puzzly for me. But um, I feel like I tend to prefer action combat, and it's not. Some of it is the speed, but um, another part of it is hopefully um, there's something, and I think I prefer New World and Valheim, where the mobs are moving around, and that's what's pushing me to move. Like you know, I'm trying to keep up with them because they're moving, and then I'm moving, and then it becomes a dance. So I don't even think these days we need the ground telegraphs if they can get the mobs to telegraph well enough that we can recognize what's happening. Valheim does a really good job of that for me. Um, but yeah, I kind of like the action combat, although action combat this week moved into well, the last couple of weeks, huge debate about RNG. People didn't want CCs to have any RNG at all. And they think that PvP should not have any RNG, and it's a PvP game, so that means there should be no RNG. And it's like, but it's an RPG, so sorry. Uh,
Yeah, crits at the very least. Are you going to get rid of crits, really?
So, but yeah, so that's kind of cool that you just made that realization this past week when you were doing your fishing
Well, I mean,
route.
that starts with New World. So New World,
All right.
and I understand they're in different development frames at this point, obviously, with New World supposedly releasing in the end of September. But, you know, of everything, that means, I mean, I alpha tested New World too. So, you know, comparing the two, I've quite frankly seen myself playing a New World over Ashes of Creation at this point.
Well, the crafting is better at this point.
Well,
so.
for everything, I guess the big draw to Ashes of Creation would be for PvPers because that's one of the kind of unique aspects to how they're doing it. But even New World has essentially the same equivalent with wars and, you know, their battles that occur. I mean, that's essentially a siege as well.
Yeah, I'm just saying we haven't seen the real crafting. You've done a beta of crafting for New World that's just about to release. So we're
and fishing too.
Two extremes. No, but I'm saying, but we're at two different extremes of development for that. So we'll have to see if Ashes is able to catch up.
Ashes is definitely not going with the systems they have right now. In fact, I believe they said there aren't even going to be glowy things on the stuff that you interact with.
Right.
Well, but I mean, it feels. Well, so I haven't been testing anyways. A large part of that is lack of interest because I don't see Ashes of Creation. I didn't back that as a Kickstarter backer for the PvP, and that's essentially what's being tested. I mean, I understand networking too, but I mean that's all in the vein of PvP. There's PvE, but they're big WoW moments or their sieges, and that's just, you know, that's not the kind of testing at this point that I would prefer to do. But I also I don't know. I see what they have out at this point after, 5 years. It's just, I'm starting to lull back into the not so in favor of what is coming and what's being done. You know, and part of that's reinforced by all the other things we just don't have yet. You mentioned crafting. You know, everything that they've promised. You know, I'm playing through BDO, Final Fantasy 14, games that are established but have in-depth crafting systems, and I'm just looking at them thinking, we don't have any, as far as we know, and I don't think we would have anything in detail from, you know, they've been busy working on other stuff at this point. I don't know. I start seeing things get stacked against them. So we'll see.
Well, I think they tried to get the data that they needed from the testing they were setting up for, and, you know, making sure that the terrain's traversable and things mostly show up where they're supposed to most of the time, and that sort of stuff, and making sure the systems work and, you know, repeatedly work with tens to hundreds of players going through and doing those things. It's I'm sure they got a lot of valid test data out of it, and I'm sure it's going to help them out a lot. I don't think the people developing the systems for the game are really impaired by it very much. There might be some people that had to break off from development to help out on these things, but I have a feeling all of the features that they plan for A2 have been in development in a separate branch, which after the A1 test fixes are in, they'll merge and reconcile those two branches, and that'll be more what A2 is going to be like going forward. So it's not like they necessarily lost time over the course of this. But I think the test data and, of course, getting those security issues out of the way and at least identifying what sort of security attacks and risks and everything are going to be out there for them in the future is definitely something that was important. That's going to be something else. We'll have to see what sort of an arms race between their server security and the people trying to breach it starts to become as it gets more and more public and more people have access. Is a bigger target, etc.
Yeah, get rid of those. What was it? 2 billion gold, 2 million. I don't remember what.
2 billion.
2 billion. Yeah, I mean, it's a good Alpha 1. It's a great feel for an Alpha 1, but almost all of the systems were rudimentary. So, I mean, trying to compare it against betas and released games, of course, it's not going to stack up to any of that. It's pretty good, even comparing it to Landmark. The PvP is better, I think.
Well, I mean, we've been testing PvP for 2 years now, so I hope it's better.
I would say it's amazing to me, kind of like you finding that you like the action combat. I was surprised how much I like sieges. And that's, again, rudimentary sieges. There's even more stuff that I'd like to be able to do that's not in the game yet. And I'd probably prefer to play as a rogue or a ranger or some other type
but
of
even
character.
that, I mean, if you PvP'd in World of Warcraft through the years, I mean, you've done this stuff already. Alderac Valley, there's several siege type PvP encounters in World of Warcraft. So I'm looking for the new.
Okay. I don't know. Sieges in whatever battlegrounds in World of Warcraft were not as fun to me as sieges in.
And I mean, it was the same idea, right? So Alderac Valley is where I spent. God, I don't even know how much time I spent there. Same idea, right? You're trying to cover territory, claim territory, so that you can spawn closer to the end boss. You fight bosses along the way to gain buffs, and then you get to the end boss and you kill them and you win. I mean, so that game design has been around for quite a long. I mean, Alderac Valley is one of the first.
Is there a collision in World of Warcraft?
No, but
I don't think there is.
I mean,
so I think that's one of the
yeah,
things
but
that I
that
like
can
about
bite
it.
you in the ass too. I was playing BDO today, and I'm running on a horse, and there's a mob that's called like poison bees or something. Literally, they're supposed to be bees, like buzzing around, and my mob hits them and just stops. Collision, like what the is what? This is this is what collision adds. Okay.
Sure, but I think the collision is one of the things that makes the siege fun for me in Ashes. But yeah, we'll see.
So I'm just getting lackey. My confidence level just continues to sort of, decline on where things are going to end up. So we'll see.
I'm definitely thinking.
It's weird for that to happen when you're comparing a Alpha 1 with a beta.
No, it's not, because I also have understanding of where the game development has been for those that are released or in beta, and and comparing the systems that they have in place, how complex they are, how they interact with the world, how and then looking at where we're at after 5 years in Alpha 1. That's where the lack of confidence. It's not for ideas or thought of their plans of what they want to do. I'm completely on board with what they want to do. I mean, I wouldn't have backed it if I wasn't. It's the where we're at and the time frame we've had, and seeing what you guys describe. I mean, I'm happy their networking's figured out, but what do we have? 2 more years? I mean,
we'll see. I really wonder what the art team's been able to do in all of this time. Like, how much more of the map they've been able to build out and fill out. That's one of the things I've wondered is how much is the art for the rest of the world and the rest of the game going to be part of why things take so long to finally release on it. I almost kind of get the feeling that the art team's way ahead, but I don't really have anything to specifically confirm that.
I would think you're probably. I mean, they started out basically as an art team, so I mean, I would agree with you. I think the assets are probably all there. That's probably not a concern. It's just that for me, it's just the systems and understanding the complexities of what Steven has promised, and seeing where we're at. After an Alpha 1, that's just where the confidence level starts to drop. Now it could be we hit Alpha 2, and they have a really so far well fleshed out crafting system. In my opinion, might change, and that very well could be.
The big question for me right now is how much are they going to leverage the community for the time between Alpha 1 and Alpha 2? Are they going to do Alpha 2 NDA tests? Something like that to bring people in and get more feedback on it and have more people try out the next set of stuff. So then that way, when it finally comes around,
I would hope. They only promised Alpha 1 to drop the NDA, right? As far as the wording that was
I believe Alpha 2 NDA is also said as no NDA for this one, but that doesn't mean they can't do an Alpha 2 pre-test.
Yeah.
So, even if it's a couple of weeks, and even if they don't do it for a couple of weeks, I wouldn't be surprised. In fact, I almost think it might be better for them to only do it during, available hours when people would be around to play it and not just running it 24/7.
So, Diggs, here's where I'll compare this. And I know I'm comparing Intrepid Studios, who just started with Steven and everybody from scratch, to Amazon. They were both announced in 2016. And here we are with one, and here we are with another. Now, I understand Amazon, Jeff Bezos, lots of money. Probably, who knows how many developers are working on it. But that's the comparison when I talk about confidence and timeframes and seeing all the things that have been promised over the last 5 years, and then rationally comparing that to where we're at now.
Right, but you're comparing but you're still comparing alpha to beta. You're just saying it's taking longer. And so it's not really fair to say, well, this was 5 years and this was 5 years, and so
the new world alpha was much more fleshed out than this, but I mean that's where you get into versions of alpha. I guess I don't know what stage of alpha that I played in. If it was alpha 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, I have no idea.
Starting off with AWS and Lumberyard, knowing what exactly the technology they're going to use is right from the start probably does help, and they probably also get support from both the AWS team and have a pretty big engine team that's working on that side of things, especially with their whole open 3D engine project where they made it all open source with the help of a bunch of other people. So I think they've probably had a lot of support to get the engine just the way they want it, had enough artists to be able to make the entire world and populate it, make it look good, have probably a pile of designers and producers and, full audio team. I'm sure they've got everything that they need, large, fully staffed, hundreds of people versus they have 40 right now, or started with 40 at the beginning of the year. So that's a giant scale of difference.
Yeah, and it's different too because New World started more as a survival game than an RPG, and the way crafting works in a survival game is a little different than the way it works in an RPG. And so they got their crafting in early because all that they were planning really to do was PvP and crafting. And then, it's a little bit easier. I mean, they're trying to shove a bunch of stuff in at the end. They don't have a ton of variety of mobs. I mean, if it was really the kind of game they're trying to turn it into, I would be expecting more variety of mobs and blah blah blah. But their AI is pretty kick-ass. So I'm not gonna slouch on what they've done with the AI. It's kind of brilliant. Um,
Yeah,
but
Down Nomad in chat, you're absolutely right. New World is, kind of a far simpler experience.
yeah. Um,
Yes, but you're basing that off promises.
no, I'm basing that off content. And
What content have you seen in Ashes? We've seen promises. We've been promised content. That's what I'm getting at. We've not seen it yet. We've been promised things. We've not seen it yet. So yes, it is simpler because we're comparing it to what Steven has pitched to us. But we have not
No.
yet seen what Steven has pitched to us.
No, I'm comparing it to any other MMORPG. I might be comparing it to other survival games even, but it's a fairly simplistic game because it was just originally supposed to just be focused on PvP, so you didn't have to have a ton of complexity to quests and mob differences and a lot of stuff. I mean, it's a fairly simple game. They aren't where they would really like to be, but they're kind of forced to release now. But at this point, they're trying to turn it into an MMORPG, and they aren't quite there yet. It doesn't matter because it's fun to play anyway, so it's good enough to release. But it's kind of like what happened with No Man's Sky. They're releasing it now, but they really want to do a whole bunch of other stuff with it now that they know that they can't have their hardcore PvP survival game.
So going forward, we'll have a gap, Alpha 1 to Alpha 2. Anything you guys are looking forward to, changes that you hope are made, what I guess to recap, so what's been what they've said, Alpha 2, I guess I should just start with that. So what they are going to have in Alpha 2, one is a persistent Alpha 2 servers will become the public test servers, so that's something that's interesting that early. But tonal arrays, ships, artisan classes, religion, secondary classes, family summon, it says emblem logo and symbol editor. So what do you guys look forward to the most for however long it is we'll be waiting now?
I think actually seeing what they do with the crafting system, as well as seeing how well they do in making sure every quest is consistent and all quests are well distributed. So it doesn't matter where you set up your village at, they all have their own quests that are, good in their own ways. You don't end up having the issues where quests just can't be completed for this and that. They all have to work. They all have to work right every time. It's that's what I'm really hoping to see, is just to be that much improved on the storytelling and questing component. It really sucks to know that there is content beyond a certain thing, but it's broken now. So you can't access, content that was made for people to check out and enjoy. It's just blocked to you. You have to watch a video of someone else do it. That's not really a fun experience at all. So that's one of the things. That and crafting are the two things that I'm really hoping to see just knock it out of the park here in Alpha 2.
Well, it says Tolnar race, but I'm pretty sure all the races are supposed to be in by Alpha 2.
Think so.
I don't know. I'm just looking at the wiki. They usually are pretty with it. So
I wouldn't quite say that, but I believe that all the races are supposed to be in. So I would expect to be seeing, and I would have expected that to be in for Alpha 1, actually, to see the orcs in. But orcs and the Kua are missing. I would expect to see them before Tolnar. Tolnar is a stretch goal, so if we're seeing Tolnar, we should definitely be seeing the orcs and the Nakua. I'm looking forward to augments. So secondary classes are in, but before that, I would want to see all of the other uh, primary archetypes in. Um, and that should give us some more variety of node types. Types is we need to start seeing something online with the nodes, like the real differences between a scientific node and a religious node, and a we need to start seeing some
Right.
of those systems. So
I agree. I think they said they were going to get a little bit better with the housing. That Alpha 2 is when we're going to start seeing apartments and storage.
yeah, that's the
So
nodes
that'll be
that we
nice.
get when we try and buy an apartment in the
Mhm.
Alpha One. Um,
Yeah, can I go to my apartment? No, sorry, kid. You got to come back after Alpha 1. That's not an Alpha 1 thing. Like, huh? Well, whatever. Sure,
um,
honest about it.
I think almost more important to me, even before we get to um, Alpha 2, is I would love to see more articles. It's been a year and a half, 2 years. When was the last? I can't even remember now. I think it's been over a year since we last saw an article. Well, over a year and a half, I think, since we last saw an article, which was one of the Node
But
I'd rather
articles.
see a tech demo.
Um, so I'd like to see articles about the primary archetypes. I'd like to see articles about um, finish off the node types. I'd like to see some articles about crafting. Um, I guess if we're going to get secondary augments, if we're going to get augments in Alpha 2, then I'd like to see some articles about that. So even more important to me over the next however long, I'd like to see some articles coming out to kind of help keep us engaged and let us know what we can look forward to. That would definitely help with theory crafting.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, I think even just some of there's probably some big stuff that's being promised, but I'd like for them to finish up some stuff that I was kind of expecting to see in Alpha One, which is like all of the base races, all all of the primary archetypes. So my expectation would have been that we see all of the primary archetypes in Alpha One, all of the races in Alpha One, and then Alpha 2 might introduce the secondary archetypes. We might get the Tonar, and since that's a stretch goal in Alpha 2, but um, we'll see.
Yeah.
Well, for me, it's crafting. Obviously, that's been my whole thing with this journey. I assume I'll play test the hell out of it if it's interesting. The thing that started this whole, I'm curious where fishing will fit in. I don't know why
Yeah.
I've been hung up on fishing. You know, I
Fishing was awesome in New World.
yeah,
That's
well,
why.
and that was the whole point of this. You know, so in MMORPGs, you know, I've fished. I mean, when you have to, or World of Warcraft, when I get super bored, you know, you power level fishing, whatever. There were some unique things you get for doing stuff, so you did it, but that was, you know, it wasn't necessarily fun. And then all of a sudden, in New World, you know, I'm just catching myself as I'm coming back and forth. And I'm already forgetting the town, but there's docks right outside, and there's where one of the quests were for the fish. You had to the bull rush to get the baits or something. There's a guy there, but there's a dock, and I just found myself every time I'm coming to offload stuff going back.
It's where Yolnas was, right?
Yeah, or
Yolnas is the fisherman.
Yep, yeah. So if I'm coming in to offload or leaving to go do more, I'm always stopping at that damn pond and I'm fishing. And I'm thinking, and we kind of talked about. I'm like, well, why? Like, what is it that I'm suddenly like interested in just sitting here and fishing, fake fishing in a game? Because I think maybe I don't know if you had the exact same experience, Diggs. I know you also found it to be real. I don't know if relaxing is the right word, but. So I set out trying to figure out like what is it about that, and so I guess in regards to Ashes is they need to just look at that first and kind of go from there. But so I've played a lot of games this week looking at like four main things. How quickly can you get into fishing? How self-sufficient is fishing? What is the whole sort of casting, reeling thing like? And then also what's the just sort of the depth within fishing as a craft? And that's how I've spent my week and a half gaming. Lord of the Rings was pretty awful. I actually had fun in the game. Fishing was terrible. Elder Scrolls Online, the story is great. The world looks beautiful. Fishing sucked. Final Fantasy XIV actually has a really well planned out crafting. I forget what they refer to them, classes, jobs or whatever it is. But fishing's one of them. It was actually the fishing system itself was actually quite fun. But the problem with Final Fantasy XIV is I couldn't get to. I had to like go through 20 levels and a whole story quest line. It drove me absolutely nuts. It's like I read, well, how can I just fish? Oh, you have to be level 10. Okay, I got to level 10. Well, you have to go to this, what's it called, Limsa Lomenza or something like that. Okay, well, how do I get there? Oh, you can go to a ferry. Okay, I went to the ferry. Nope, have to take an airship. Okay, well, how do I get to the airship? You got to do another 20 story quests before you get the airship. And that about drove me nuts. And then finally I got there, and the whole fishing system actually is really well. It's really well done. It's fun. It was a system that made me want to go back to where I'd been to discover fishing holes and what fish were there and things like that. Tried Arcade. That was terrible. It's just a terrible game at this point. Which I honestly, Ashes looked a lot like it, and also BDO, but. And then I've spent really the last 2 days playing Black Desert. So that game has actually been pretty fun in many different levels from a crafting, harvesting perspective that maybe we can talk about sometime when we have more time. But, so crafting is where I'll be.
I think your Final Fantasy frustration is kind of what I was feeling in New World. Why do you have to, fishing is a kind of very basic skill, like you shouldn't have to be an expert in all kinds of other professions in order to start fishing. And I think that's the way I felt with New World's crafting. I'm killing all of these boar and I'm killing all of these wolves. I should be able to make some wolf skin, boar skin, leather, armor very quickly before I can make linen even. Why do I have to wait to be level 30 or something like that before I can make a wolf skin? After the thousands of wolves that I've killed. And so, yeah, fish, you should be able to start fishing pretty early. Like, what? Your kids probably already know
right, and that was one of that was one of my things I was looking for is like how easily can I just get to the person that teaches me how to fish?
Yeah.
Or a Kingdom, which is like a on rails sort of mmorpg. I forget who even makes it, Nexon or somebody else, but actually had a pretty damn good fishing system when it came to sort of reeling, the actual casting and reeling. BDO has a wonderful fishing system so far. The only thing that drives me nuts that I don't like as much is the actual reeling the fish back in. It's kind of weird, but at this point I'm trying to create a fish factory. Actually, I have a rowboat that'll probably be finished when we're done here that I can go out and go on the ocean and just start fishing around there. But something else that I learned that I liked that I hope I see in Ashes of Creation, and this comes to sort of the harvesting world exploration. And part of what it dawned on me that I really liked about New World, and that I also really liked about Elder Scrolls Online, was this idea that you can go into a building, and you can, or just wherever in the scenery, and start taking stuff. You see a plant, you harvest it. You see a tree, you harvest it. Elder Scrolls Online, you see a cup, you take it. You see armor laying on the ground, you take it. The ores and stuff and fishing are a little bit crappier, but what I found I enjoy a lot of is actually just having the ability to just stop and just harvest and take stuff instead of finding that one iron ore node that's way out, and that actually kind of comes back into crafting, because it also dawned on me, well, I would rather have a system where it takes a lot of mats that are very well located in the world to create something than a system where it's like, you have to have 3 pieces of iron ore to make a sword, but then you have to you have to look all times, different places to just find 3 pieces of iron ore. I like the system more so where things are just very abundant. It takes more to create something, but I guess that's starting to get into crafting, which we can talk more about later. But that was sort of the exploration of the free world, being able to take what you see to some extent. And actually, that's one knock that I have on New World, is that all of their harvesting spawns are mostly static, except for trees and bushes, obviously. But ores and provision crates and all supply crates, that's all static. I hope they create a system that randomizes that. But so,
I think I like them being static, but maybe the problem is that makes it too easy for it to be contended. I don't know, but
it doesn't have to be super random. It could be, rather than one location in farm A that has the provision crate, they have maybe 20 different areas within that farm where they could spawn that crate. It doesn't have to be like throughout the entire world, but
I was thinking more about iron. Like, I like knowing I'm going to this location because it's going to have this type of stuff. This is where iron is. This is where bull rushes are. This is where these type of plants thrive. I mean, because that's how we learn about the world. Copper's in this country or that country, or gold is here. Certain types of trees grow here. Certain types of trees grow there. But
New World definitely had a problem with Let 'em's Pick, the place where you're supposed to go and mine 3 nodes to get some special stones. Well, it seems like a good idea, and they set it up with a whole bunch of iron nodes that you can mine to get the magnetite or whatever you're looking for. But guess what? If you put a giant concentration of iron nodes somewhere, everybody's just going to go there.
Right.
It's not a good time.
Yeah, that's the big problem in New World, especially. I was going to say, with fishing, what you just put a thought in my head, Phantom, is in games like WoW and EverQuest and even Wizard 101, I would spend hours swimming around continents just to unlock the Fog of War. And sometimes, that's just, there's nothing there. Sometimes I'm able to run up the side of the cliff and still there's really nothing there. It would be really cool to have different types of fish, even. That I could take a break of swimming and hop out and discover some fish that I hadn't been able to
that's
before.
And that's how some of the better systems are. I mean, that's final. So the 3 things Ashes needs to look at: New World, Final Fantasy 14, BDO. When it comes to random, different locations having different fish, Black Desert and Final Fantasy 14 do that very well. Different rarities, and then of course within that different sizes. But not having not just the freshwater saltwater divide, but also where you are. I agree, within the world, like having different. And that's what they do with herbs, correct? I mean, that's you have to go to a different area to get certain herbs for cooking versus where you're at. So I mean, they might do that. That might be something that's already in or going to be in. I mean, it's just logical to do that.
I hope.
Well, I could go on and on about my fishing exploits, but it is now after 9, and maybe next time we'll just do something talking about crafting and sort of what we've enjoyed, because I could go forever about Black Desert. It has it's got its hands on me. So, anyways, everyone have a great week, and we will see you back here.
Yep. See you later, folks.